Hi guys, so yes, this is the video that you have to watch. Now, I made this video because we didn't quite get to this in class, and this is something that students miss quite often because you look at it and you say, oh, this is easy, I can do this is no problem, and then you kind of miss what the question is talking about. And I need to introduce to you a specific form of notation. So let's go ahead and talk through the problem at hand. So it says, people exiting a new ride at a theme park were asked whether they liked or disliked the ride. The results are shown in the table alongside. So you've got children and adults that either like the ride or dislike the ride. Use the table to estimate the probability that a randomly selected person who went on the ride, and then we've got 5 different questions that we're supposed to answer. Now, the first thing that I would do if I were looking at this problem is I would go ahead and sum up the total children, so 55 plus 70 plus 17, which would be 72, and then I would sum up the adults, which is 58, and then I would do the same thing for the liked the ride, which would be 70, 83, and then I would do the same thing here, which would be 47. So now I have numbers that give me the sum of each row and column, and actually if you add those together, it should be 83 plus 47 is 130, and if you do 72 plus 58, that should also give you 130. And so this is the total number of people surveyed. Those numbers will be helpful as we go through this problem. Okay, so we're going to start with letter A. Who liked the ride? So what is the probability that any random person would like the ride? So we're looking at probability of like. Okay, so we know that probability is the number of desired outcomes over the total number of outcomes. So the number that liked the ride was a total of 83 people liked the ride, and the total number of people surveyed was 130, and so therefore you now have letter A. The probability of people that liked the ride was 83 over 130. On to letter B. Letter B says, is a child and disliked the ride. Okay, so probability of child and dislike, sorry. Okay, so from here, we now look at the problem. We say, okay, child, dislike. There were 17 children that disliked the ride. So that means we're going to go 17 that disliked the ride over the total number, which is 130. Pretty easy so far, right? So now let's look at letter C. Is an adult or dislike the ride? So C, we want the probability of adult or dislike. Okay, so we go up and we say, okay, which ones of these is an adult or dislike? So these guys are adults. This guy is dislike. And so we need to add all those up. So that's going to be 58 plus 17, which will be 75 over 130. Now, I didn't check the first couple because I knew that they wouldn't be simplified, but you should always simplify if you can. These are both divisible at least by 5, so I'll change that. I'll go 75 divided by 5 is 15. 130 divided by 5 is 26, and then it can't be simplified any further, so 15 over 26. All right, it's good to have this one here too for comparison purposes, but your answer really should be the reduced and simplified fraction. All right, let's go on to letter D, and this is where I need to introduce a little bit of notation. So this now says, what is the probability that they liked the ride given that he or she is a child? Okay, so you'll notice that in between I put this bar. That bar represents given that it's a child. Now what that means, we're looking at the probability that they like it given that they're a child. So that means that the person that we're talking to is definitely a child, not an adult. And so what we can do right off is we can take in our chart and cross off all of the adults because they don't matter at all in this problem. Okay, we already know given that it is a child. So now we want the probability that they like it. So children that liked it was 55, and the total number is 72. Because remember, we crossed out all the adults. The adults don't matter. We already know that it's a child, so the total number of children is 72. So that's the total number of outcomes given that it's a child. And then 55 like it, so 55 out of 72. All right, last one, we'll go on to letter E. is an adult given that he or she disliked the ride. So again, probability of adult given that they disliked the ride. Okay, so this time it's given that they dislike it, so we really, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So we know that they disliked it, so the people who liked it don't matter at all. So I've got 47 who disliked the ride. Now out of those 47, given that they dislike it, what is the probability that they were an adult? And so adult, we would say, well, there are 30 adults in that category, and it's out of the 47 who disliked the ride. Okay, this is the part that people will mess up on. They'll put 130 on the bottom of everything, when if it's already given that it's a child, you don't have to consider the adults at all here. Given that they dislike, we're not looking at the people who like it. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope that you can use that as you're going through your homework and through other problems similar to this in this section and throughout the rest of the unit. All right, cheers.